Good morning, everybody. I'm Hugh Harris. The flight of the Alan Shepard aboard Freedom 7 was a major turning point in the history of our country. It's going to be my privilege to introduce the people who will tell you the story of that accomplishment and recognize the people in the audience who made that possible. I'd like you to welcome, first of all, Lieutenant General Susan J. Helms, Commander of the 14th Air Force. General Helms, would you come up? General Helms leads a force of more than 20,000 people responsible for missile warning, space superiority, satellite operations, space launch and range operations. And as a NASA astronaut, she flew 5 space missions, 4 of them on the space shuttle, during which she set a record for the longest spacewalk. She lived and worked for 167 days on the International Space Station and spent a total of 211 days in space. Would you please take your seat?
I will. Thank you.
Bob Cabana is director of the Kennedy Space Center, where he's responsible for successfully completing the Space Shuttle program and building the world's premier launch site. Bob flew on 4 Space Shuttle missions, including commanding the first assembly mission for the International Space Station.
Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you for being here. Scott Carpenter is unique as a Mercury astronaut. Instead of just forwarding engineering readings from his spacecraft, he tried to report the human feelings of going into space. He also performed the first 5 scientific experiments in space by an astronaut, and later his expertise in outer space turned to inner space and advancing our knowledge of working in the deep ocean. Thank you for coming. Jay Barbary is the only reporter to have covered every United States human flight. He was a friend of Alan Shepard's and co-author with Alan of the only New York Times bestseller book on space called Moonshot. It is being re-released as an updated ebook version for this anniversary. Bob Mosier was chief test conductor responsible for the launch of the Redstone Mercury and Freedom 7. He's the man who gathered the reports from the engineers for every system and ensured that everything was ready to go. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
We think Paul Donnelly may be here too, who was the Mercury test conductor, spacecraft test conductor, but I haven't seen him yet. Jack King was the chief of public information at the time of the Shepard launch and responsible for helping the press cover this vital advance in our nation's history. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The 3 daughters of Alan Shepard, Laura Churchley, Julie Jenkins, and Alice Wackerman, were the pride and the underlying foundation of Alan's life. They will be sharing the joy and sometimes anxiety of growing up with a famous fighter pilot astronaut. And by the way, Alice managed to be born on May 5th, apparently knowing that her father would make his first space flight just a few years in the future. Our NASA administrator, Charlie Bolden, is not only a Marine Corps general, but also former astronaut who flew 4 times, including deploying the Hubble Space Telescope. He is also the only astronaut whoever test rode the escape basket from the 195-foot level of pad 39A out to the outer perimeter, something that a lot of us would like to have done. Will everybody please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Patrick Air Force Color Guard and the singing of the national anthem led by Tech Sergeant Ultralise Myers.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. General Helms, the microphone is yours.
Well, thank you. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, some of my old stomping grounds, obviously, for a lot of reasons, as we celebrate 50 years of human spaceflight. I wholeheartedly enjoy my return trips to the Space Coast. The 45th Space Wing and NASA have shared a proud part of our nation's history, and as shown by a letter of intent signed by the U.S. Air Force, NASA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, both the Cape and the Kennedy Space Center will continue to be an important part of our nation's future, even as we celebrate its past. This place shines as a beacon to all of the ability for civilian, commercial, and military organizations to come together to advance science and technology. And our work here enhances the strength of our nation and contributes to a better quality of life for our citizens and the entire world. The military has played an important part in our human spaceflight program from the beginning. Of the 7 original astronauts, all of them had a military background. 3 were Air Force officers, 3 were Navy officers, and 1 was a Marine officer, which I'm sure Charlie Bolden is very proud. The rocket behind us, flown by Alan Shepard, was a product of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency that merged with NASA. The Navy helped train Alan Shepard and was responsible for recovering him when he splashed down. The Air Force, as it does today, was responsible for the operation of the range and the safety of millions of people as the rocket flew downrange. The doctors helped in the selection of the astronauts and monitored their health and training. And finally, NASA provided the leadership and vision to bring all of the elements and groups together to accomplish extraordinary things. As John Gillespie McGee Jr. said in his poem, High Flight, "Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God." This is what Alan Shepard accomplished 50 years ago today. And although I was just a little kid in the 60s, I won't say how little because I don't want to give away my age, even though it is on the internet. I knew even back then that the Cape was a thrilling place to work. I'm still frankly jealous that I never did get to see a Saturn V rocket lift off when I talk to people around here who did, and they tell me what it was and what it meant. Pioneers, scientists, and engineers all alike made it possible, for we are all accomplishing today on the civilian and military side of space launch, standing on the shoulders of those who made it happen 50 years ago for Alan Shepard. I'm sure what we're doing today still inspires people to get involved in the exploration of space, just as Alan Shepard and his fellow Mercury astronaut Scott Carpenter here today did for the people of my generation way back when we were young. It is truly an inspiring moment that we collectively are coming together here to remember, and I'm pleased to see such a broad audience out there from all different walks of the space program here to celebrate this special anniversary. So on behalf of the entire 14th Air Force and 45th Space Wing, I'm pleased to have the privilege of participating in today's ceremony. We will work tirelessly to continue to be the world's premier gateway to space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Helms. Bob?
Thanks, Hugh. Well, welcome to this 50th anniversary celebration of Americans in Space. In just a few minutes, we will be hearing and seeing what happened on this launch pad 50 years ago to the minute and follow the mission through to recovery downrange. Before I go any further, I would like to take a moment to thank the Space Community Anniversary Committee for all their efforts in ensuring that this significant anniversary did not pass without the appropriate recognition, and to remember where we started 50 years ago today. Thank you for your early planning and for working with the NASA team to make this such a memorable event. In the audience today, we have more than 100 workers from the Mercury era who devoted their lives to flying humans safely in space. There are a few who couldn't be here today because they're still working in the space industry. So I'd like all of you who are part of the Mercury program to please stand right now so we can recognize you. And could I get all the spouses to stand also? Thank you. Thank you, please. You know, spouses are, they've always been a vital part of our space workforce. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate all that you've done to help us be successful. I know our administrator, Charlie Bolden, and the entire country join me in thanking you what you did through the years to advance our nation's capability. The space program is essential to our future and our well-being as a nation, and you can be extremely proud of what you did for your country and for humankind. As a small boy growing up in Minnesota, I can remember being glued to a small black and white TV as I watched with great excitement as we prepared to launch the first American into space. I might add he was a Naval Academy graduate and a Navy test pilot also. Astronauts, and by the way, Susan, I did get to see a Saturn V launch as a midshipman, and it was awesome. Astronauts and test pilots, they were my heroes. I held them in such high esteem. I never dreamed that one day I might actually be one. But Alan Shepard, he set the example and paved the way for us all. Perhaps the most far-reaching work that Alan Shepard accomplished, however, was spearheading the Mercury-7 Foundation. It has continued to grow from the original 7 to 80 astronauts strong over the years, and is now called the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. To date, the scholarship has funded and supported 279 students in their studies of science, technology, engineering, and math. Starting with just 7 $1,000 scholarships in 1986, the foundation has grown to where it awarded 19 $10,000 scholarships this year to help ensure our country retains its world leadership in science and technology. During the ceremony, you'll be learning a great more about Alan Shepard, the man and the legend, from his daughters and other Mercury-7 astronauts like Scott Carpenter. So get ready to hear from Chief Test Conductor Bob Mosier as they walk us through the launch process. And thanks again for coming today to mark this most memorable event in America's space program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabana. Jay Barbary, you were here 50 years ago this day, also covering the launch of Alan Shepard for NBC News. Please tell us what you were feeling and set the stage for recreating the launch and the mission through the interviews of our other participants.
First, I want to say to all the Mercury team out here, it's in their late 70s and 80s, as I am. Have you noticed all these young people that came up here, they had to read it? We're going to talk to you about what happened here. You know, we're running a little late right now. I want to tell you it was a day just about like today, and about a mile or so up here was a press site. And we had, a few hundred people up there, and I was on with a great legend on 16 networks worldwide, including the Armed Forces Radio Network. And I was just talking to astronaut Charlie Duke, who is here. He was on Apollo 16, walked on the moon, and he was talking about he was a young fighter pilot, and they were listening to us over there on the Armed Forces Network. But anyway, we were all over there. The day was like this. It was the beginning of something, and it is so great to look out and see like General Augersman over here, who was the backup to General Medeiros, and look at Sam Bedingfield, who put him in the spacecraft, and everybody here, all you guys. This is for you today, and you guys all did great, and it's glad to see you out here. Now, first I want to start with Bob Mosier. Bob, if you'll come up. Let me tell you a little bit about Bob. Bob was a test conductor inside. He actually launched him. Of course, the test director was, Debus, some guy named Debus or something like that. Yeah, anyway, Bob here also did the first satellite into space. So what was it like in the blockhouse?
Well, the blockhouse, sitting over there, someplace, was very crowded. We had about 50 people in those 3 small rooms. But it was very intense, organized, and everybody had their job to do and did it. It was, at that time, push buttons, meters, switches, and hard lines coming out here to the vehicle. Nothing like it is today. There were no TVs around. That's why the windows are there. So there we were, and it was a intense countdown. Everybody was at their job. There was no joking around, let me tell you. But we enjoyed it, and it worked, and congratulations to all of us. We were a great team.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you very much. He did it. Hey, Jack Keane, come here. Now, a lot of you people know this guy coming up here, but he was actually here a couple of weeks before I got here. Now, he was with an outfit called the Associated Press. We played poker up in the AP Bureau up there. That's the way you paid your rent.
Yeah,
So you got us guys up there to play poker.
Exactly
Anyway,
right.
Jack,
Smoke
tell us
still
what was happening with the press.
Well, first up, I want to say none of you know Jay actually covered Lindbergh's landing. Goes back a long time. been around for a while. The morning of May 5th is 50 years ago. And you know, you go back in your memory. I was just talking with Neil about this. And you start to think, knowing that you're going to be involved in the program, you start to think about the various activities on that given day. And then all of a sudden, just like I've had memories of Apollo 11 the same way, as you are here on occasions like this, it was like yesterday. It's amazing, 50 years ago. But as things come in and memories come into your mind, it was a very special time. We had my responsibilities as Chief of Information was to run the press operations at the Cape, and I also handled what was called the hang arrest pool. This was the press pool that went over to hang arrest the astronauts' facilities to cover Alan Shepard's departure from his crew quarters to the launch pad. To me, and I've gone through hundreds of launches and done countdowns on hundreds of launches. The first is always very special. I must admit, it's the only one where I was misty-eyed. The first American in space. I couldn't be prouder, and I couldn't be prouder of being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Hey, guys, Alan Shepard was one hell of a guy. No one knew him, didn't know that. And he really set the standards with this launch that we've had for 164 times. That's how many launches we've had. We've got 2 more to go with the shuttle program to bring it at 166. But I want to tell you, most proud he was of these 3 young ladies. Come on up here. Ooh, got it right here. This is Alice, this is Julie, and this is Laura. Now tell us what you were doing that morning and what it was like to know your dad was about to ride that.
Well, first off, I would like to say that when Daddy was first selected as an astronaut, he sat us all down in the living room, and he told us he wasn't going to be working for the Navy anymore. He was going to be an astronaut. And, you know, he was so excited about this. We were really trying to listen, but we kind of got stumbled with the word astronaut. We didn't know what it was. We were 8 and 11, you know. So, but his enthusiasm won us over. We stood up and we said, well, have a good trip, Daddy.
Well, I was younger. I was just turning 10 years old. So, continuing with Laura's story, I needed a little more confirmation on it. So, at bedtime that night, I'm looking at my dad, and I said, okay, Daddy, is that rocket going to bring you back? And he looks at me just as confident as you can imagine. He goes, Julie, they are not going to put me up in that rocket if they can't get me home. Kiss me goodnight, best night I slept.
This is the birthday girl today, Alice.
Well, I was the early riser, and we were in Virginia Beach at the time. Mother and our grandparents were in Virginia Beach, and it was a bright, beautiful morning like today. And I looked out the curtains of our living room, and our whole front yard was full of policemen, police dogs, and police cars, and journalists. And so I was very taken back by it, and so quickly I ran to Julie and woke up Mom and said, oh my, there's stuff going on in the neighborhood. So she quickly got up and told us what was going to happen that day. And we sat down in front of the little black and white TV and watched it all happen. It was wonderful.
What do you think today, where we are today after your dad started out, what a lot of people don't realize, what makes me so proud of Alan Shepard, and my personal most proud, is that he allowed me to help him write his book, the one and only book, Moonshot. And as somebody by the name of Hugh Harris over here mentioned, it's just come back, returned, we've updated it, it's on the internet now. But he was so proud of you girls, and when he took off on May 5th, 1961, he carried NASA's space program on his shoulders because he had been beaten into space by Yuri Gagarin 3 weeks earlier. He could have been first if von Braun had allowed them to fly the single shot that would have put him up there. They wanted to fly one more. And when they were beaten by Yuri Gagarin, the naysayers were out, and they were telling everybody, let's not go. We don't need it. We've been beat. Let's forget about the space program. But Kennedy stuck with your dad. Your dad had all of this weight on his shoulder. He knew that if he failed, that would be the failure of the space program. He also knew when he got his chance to be the only member of the Mercury original 7 astronauts to go to the moon. It was Apollo 14 after the near disaster of Apollo 13. And there was calls then that if that we didn't need to go anymore. We landed Apollo 11 and 12. We didn't go anymore. So he had to make absolutely sure that Apollo 14 was picture perfect, and he did it. What a great guy, and here we are today, and we have the girl standing here. Is there one thing you'd like to add quickly before we recreate his flight?
Daddy never thought of himself as a hero. He tried to keep our family as normal as possible. We really weren't thrown out into the public. And I do remember every time he spoke, he always gave credit to everyone in NASA who built the good ship that brought him home to us safely. And we thank you all very much.
Now, the treat that we have for you today, we have uncovered a pristine audio of Alan Shepard's flight. Everything he said in Freedom 7 from the moment of liftoff until he was recovered in the Atlantic 300 miles southeast of here. And we have recreated the video that will cover it. Where is Jim Lewis and CCI, the guys that put this together for us? I think Robin. Anyway, here you are over here. Hi, Jim. Thank you so much. You have a treat. We're not going to interrupt it. But first, I want to bring up someone named Scott Carpenter. Scott, come on up. And while Scott's coming up here, John Glenn was to be here today. John called me the other night. Unfortunately, there were 2 deaths in his family on Annie's side, and they could not come. But John wanted to be here with us for the liftoff today, and Scott. And Scott, you flew Chase, I think, along with Wallace Sherrod, didn't you? On this just before it took off. I think we're going to say, there you go. Look, Scott, look, there you go. Here goes Scott off right now. F-106 taking off. He chased.
CTM is go.
There he goes. He chased Alan Shepard as far as he could into space. What do you remember was happening right then?
Tony, hold on with me until I give you the word.
Wally and I circled the pad at a respectable distance for a long time. We landed afterward.
7, rating it loud and clear. Capcom, over to Chase.
Okay, over to Chase. He was calling over to you, Scott. Now, what we're going to do when we get close to liftoff here, we're going to be quiet. We're going to let you hear and relive Alan Shepard's flight.
I'll get an estimate on this.
Gordo in there. That's Gordo Cooper that you're looking at.
All you have to do is give me the word. I've got one suite. 7, stand by, Capcom. I'm still on box.
Okay, he lifted off at 9:34, so we still have another 4 minutes almost to go here before he actually lifts off. But you can see what it looked like about the same type of day that was happening.
Keep your camera and tape recorders on. CO, did you verify you got a recorder light? This is the CO, I did. Okay, phone ready to resume the count? Roger, ready to resume the count. STE, I'm going to turn it over to Stoney. Verify. Resume the count. Okay, Stoney, take it over. Roger. 5 seconds.
Second 7, Stoney on your room.
7, loud and clear, Stoney.
Roger, loud and clear also.
Stoney again is astronaut Gordon Cooper. There's the press site. They tried to keep us compacted and as close as they could. Okay, guys, Jim, if we could bring the sound up a little bit here as we get into it, I think we can all hear it pretty well, but the launch is right on time with this tape, and we're actually market time. Good audio, very good audio, perfect. And now we are about 2 minutes 45 seconds away from launch. I believe if memory serves me right, we'll have another hold here before it takes. Again, there was 442 reporters there. They called Alan Shepard the Icy Commander, and you'll see why.
One minute and counting.
Roger.
I don't know what that roar is, but
45 and counting. Mark. Roger.
do you remember, Scott, how high that you were in the F-106 when you lost sight of it?
30. Mark.
3,000 feet.
Is that all? Yeah.
That's the front air pickup.
In other words, he got out of here in a hurry.
24 volts, 26 amps.
Okay, guys, we're right on time to recreate Alan Shepard's flight 50 years to the moment.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Lift off.
All Roger, lift off and the clock is started.
You're on your road.
Yes, sir, reading you loud and clear.
I'll tell you.
This is Freedom 7. The fuel is go, 1.2 G. Cabin at 14 PSI. Oxygen is go.
As understand, protect the air, okay.
Freedom 7 is still go.
How's you looking good?
This is 7. Fuel is go, 1.8 G, 8 PSI cabin, and the oxygen is go.
How's you protect the air, okay.
Cabin pressure is holding at 5.5. Cabin holding at 5.5.
I can understand. Cabin holding at 5.5.
The fuel is go, 2.5 G. Cabin 5.5. Oxygen is go. The main bus is 24, and the isolated battery is 29.
Roger, read you 5 to 5. Protect the air, okay.
Okay, it's a lot smoother now, a lot smoother.
Roger.
Seven here, fuel is go, 4G, 5.5 cabin, oxygen go, all systems are go.
That's all systems go. Protect the air, okay.
5G. Cut off, tower jettison green.
Roger now.
Disarm. Cap step is green. Periscope is coming out. And the turnaround has started.
Apple. Apple.
ASCS is okay. Control movements.
Okay. Now.
Okay, switching to manual pitch.
That's manual pitch.
Pitch is okay. Switching to manual yaw.
Okay, understand. Manual yaw. Roger, 3, okay.
Yaw is okay. Switching manual roll. Roll is okay.
Good, okay. Let's go to it.
On the periscope, what a beautiful view. Cloud cover over Florida, 3 to 4 tenths near the eastern coast. Obscures up through Hatteras. You can see Okeechobee, identify Andros Island, identify the reefs.
Retro, 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
Start retro sequence, in retro attitude, arc green. Control is smooth. You notice Retro 1. Very smooth. Retro 2. Retro 3. All 3 retros are fired. Okay, 3 retros have fired. Retro jettison is back to arm.
The booster.
Negative. Switching fly-by-wire. Roll is okay. Roger, do not have a light. I do not have a light. I see the straps falling away. I heard a noise. I will use override. Override used. The light is green. Oh, Roger. Periscope is retracting. I'm on fly-by-wire, going to re-entry attitude.
Projector right on the button.
Okay, Buster, re-entry attitude. Switching ASCS normal. ASCS is okay. Switching HF for radio check.
Capcom, how do you read HF?
Roger, reading you loud and clear, HF. Decom me.
Freedom 7, Capcom, how do you read onset?
Reading you loud and clear, HF. How me?
Back to you, HF.
Okay, this is Freedom 7. Chief build up. 3, 6, 9. Okay. Okay.
Coming through loud and clear.
Okay. Okay. This is 7, okay. $45,000 feet now. 40,000 feet. I'm back on ASCS. $35,000. $30,000 feet.
Capcom, how do you read now?
Roger, Deke, reading you loud and clear, how me?
Switched over to GDI.
Roger. The drogue is green at 21. The periscope is out. The drogue is out. Okay, at drogue deploy, I've got 70%. Auto, 90% manual. Oxygen is still okay. And the snorkel's at about 15,000 feet. Emergency flow rate is on. Standing by for main. Main on green. Main chute is raised. Main chute is green. Main chute is coming unraised and it looks good.
This was the happiest time of his flight when he had a main chute working.
Feet per second. Hello, Capcom, Freedom 7. How do you read? Hello, card file 23. This is Freedom 7. Do you read?
Freedom 7, this is Indian Capcom. Do you read me?
Affirmative, Indian Capcom. Let me give you a report. I'm at 7,000 feet. The main chute is good. The landing bag is on green. My peroxide has dumped. My condition is good.
Roger, Freedom 7. I understand you're at 7,000 feet. Your main chute is open. Your landing is good. Over.
That is affirmative. Please relay. card file 23, card file 23, Freedom 7, over.
Freedom 7, this is card file 23, over.
This is 7, relay back to Capcom, please. My altitude now 4,000 feet. Condition as before, the main chute is good. The landing bag has deployed, the peroxide has dumped.
All right, just a second, hello. Relay.
Card file 23, Freedom 7.
Go 7, this is 23.
I'm about 1,500 feet now. The main chute still looks good. Rate of descent is indicating 30 feet per second.
All right. Freedom 7, this is 23. I have no transmissions from Cape Capcom. Over.
Roger.
Freedom 7, this is Cape Capcom, over.
This is 7, go ahead.
We have something to transmit at this time, over.
The negative, just relaying my condition is still good. I'm getting ready for impact.
Roger.
Okay, that's it. He's back safely. He's back safely, and I want to thank these television people. We did it right to the second. 50 years to the second, recreated his flight. Now he's waiting to be picked up, and I want to tell you guys, sitting here on the front row is a little Alan Shepard. His name is Baxter. He's his great-grandson. Did you like to watch your granddad there today fly, Baxter? Good. Thank you for coming to see us, all right? Thank you, Baxter. Anyway, look at there, Scott. They got the capsule up there. You flew down with the rest of the Mercury astronaut. Tell us what it was like down there when you got to see Alan back on ground.
I saw Wally Schirra, who flew the other chase airplane. We shook hands when we landed. The conversation went sort of like this. Wally, what did you see? He said, Scott, what did you see? We both said didn't see a thing. We were circling at a respectable distance, maybe 6 miles away. And it's a good idea to chase the first flight of a new machine. But when the first flight goes straight up, it's hard to chase.
Yeah, I think you told me earlier that you guys lost sight of him about 3,000 feet. Was that about 10 seconds after launch?
Something like that.
Scott, thank you so much. And I want you to know that Scott, of course, was our second American in the Earth orbit. He followed John Glenn. And again, John wanted to be here with us so much today to do this, but it's just fantastic. We want to thank again Bob Cabana, the director of NASA's Kennedy Space Center, and also General Wilson over here, who is also our host. But we appreciate you letting General Helms speak today, General Wilson, because we are very proud of you, General Helms. We're very proud of you. And that guy sitting on your left, that Marine, we're sort of proud of him too. Okay? So what we'll do, we'll give it back to Hugh here now. And all of you, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jay. And thank you, Scott. Unfortunately, we have a lot of wind up here today.
How do you mean that,
It's all natural. Now it's a great pleasure to introduce Charlie Bolden, our administrator. His deployment of the Hubble Space Telescope that sees farther into the universe than any other telescope is really consistent with the job that he has today, because his job is to envision the future of NASA and to guide us on that journey. Charlie?
Hugh, thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for coming out this morning. This is absolutely incredible. I'm not sure about most of you, but I got goosebumps watching the video, and as I listened to Alan throughout the mission, there is no question that my heart rate sitting over here next to General Helms was probably higher than Alan's got the entire flight. Susan, as I know her, General Helms, Bob and I were sitting there as Alan was counting up the G's, and Bob went, 10 G's. And I went, ooh, that hurts, just sitting here listening. Jay, you know, because I am younger, I am going to read. And the main reason I'm going to read is because my wife sitting down there always says, don't ad-lib because you talk too long and you say too much. So I will do that. Any Marine that can read. Okay, I probably should read this and get it done really, really quickly. I do want to take an opportunity. This is a joyous day for us, and as we do this, I want to remind people that, you know, there are a lot of things that go on in this world. We have the privilege of associating with perhaps the greatest program that has ever seen existence on this planet, and that's the space program. Even as we sit here, however, we have some brothers and sisters up in Huntsville, Alabama at the Marshall Space Flight Center who went through some devastating events with the tornadoes just in this past week, and they continue to press on in spite of everything. Several of them have lost everything, but I'd ask you to remember them and keep them in your thoughts and prayers as we go through these celebrations. You know, Alice, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I don't know how many of you got the significance. Today is Alice's birthday, and I commented to her, I said, you know, did you think about the birthday candle that your dad put on your cake, you know, launching on your birthday? And she said, you know, I really didn't at that time. And the other thing was, some of you have heard me talk about faith before. Some things happen over which we have no control. This was not the day that Alan Shepard was supposed to launch. He was supposed to have launched, I think, 3 days earlier. But things just didn't work out that way, and he launched on the birthday, you know, of Alice. So I think things work well. Hugh, I can't thank you for putting this together and for being the moderator here. I want to thank all of you for coming again. Laura, Julie, Alice, thanks so much for helping us put a human face on an iconic man. And Scott, you know, we listened to you yesterday and today. It was just tremendous. And you are an incredible legend, one for whom we have great respect and admiration. So thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you who were a part of the Mercury program. As Bob said, particularly the spouses, because as today, with everything, the spouses are sort of the unsung heroes, the people that allow us to go off and do things and have fun while people stay back and make things really happen in the homes. Jay, you've been instrumental in chronicling the exploits of the space program for millions of people through many years, and we really appreciate your extraordinary dedication, which continues to this day. It's an extreme pleasure for me to be here with all of you today, not only to recognize a courageous flight and a historic moment, but also to challenge all of us to remember just what Alan Shepard's achievement and that of the whole Project Mercury meant for this country, and continues to mean as we strive for even greater heights in human exploration. Project Mercury gave our country something new, an astronaut corps and space vehicles that began our human exploration efforts. Those efforts have now culminated in an orbiting International Space Station that has been occupied by humans 24/7 for 10 years now, and will be for at least another 10 years. We've launched an amazing reusable space vehicle, the Space Shuttle, more than 130 times, and achieved amazing things with that vehicle. The Space Shuttle has deployed and retrieved satellites, united international communications grid, uncovered new scientific knowledge, and increased our understanding of robotics. Shuttle allowed us to build the ISS and to send hundreds of diverse men and women into Earth orbit, people who would have never had that opportunity before. With the same spirit of innovation and grit of the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs, we now move out on an exciting path forward where we will develop the capabilities to take humans to even more destinations in the solar system, a path on which commercial companies will expand access to that rarefied area where Alan first ventured for America. This will allow NASA to focus on those bigger, harder destinations never before visited by humans, as well as enhance our science missions to peer beyond our solar system. It's an honor to share this day with so many people who helped NASA pioneer human spaceflight and enable the agency's many accomplishments throughout our existence. I salute all of you. As I experienced my flights on the shuttle, I never doubted that the people on the ground helping me succeed in space were the most dedicated, knowledgeable, resilient people in the world. This is a tough business, this launching rockets from the planet. It's never going to be without risk. From Apollo to shuttle, men and women have lost their lives trying to push the boundaries of our experience. It was a good day, May 5th, 1961, but the world waited on pins and needles praying for a good outcome. I like to think that Alan was focused on the flight, on his duties as a pilot. He was the consummate professional. None of us can really feel ourselves walking into history, but he had to know it. I was a teenager at the time and just sorting out the field of study I wanted to pursue. Though I never imagined becoming an astronaut growing up in the segregated South Carolina, I was proud to follow in Alan's footsteps several years later and become a test pilot myself. But he was our first in space and will forever be an icon. I've spent a very significant portion of my career at NASA, both as an astronaut in the astronaut office at the Johnson Space Center and now as the head of our space program. The experiences I've had would have not been possible without Alan's pioneering effort. The inspiration that has created generations of leaders to enlarge our understanding of our universe and to strive toward the highest in human potential was sparked by these early achievements. They began with Freedom 7 and a daredevil test pilot who flew the ultimate experimental vehicle that May Day 50 years ago. A daring young Alan Shepard who walked out onto this very launch pad and perhaps saw the future. I can't help but believe that if Alan did ponder history as he stepped into the capsule, he could not have imagined the full scope of achievements that would flow from his actions, or the greater accomplishments that are yet to come if we continue to follow his example and strive for the things that are hard but are good and worthwhile. Thank all of you for this wonderful celebration. God bless Alan Shepard's memory. God bless all of you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Administrator Bolden. Bill Nelson, the senator, senior senator from Florida, has been a part of the space family throughout his career, going back to state office and then national office, and is now the only senator who has flown in space. And he devotes a significant amount of his time to space policy. He wanted to be here today, but the Senate's in session, and so is unable to come. But he did send a short video message.
It's hard to believe that it's been 50 years since Alan Shepard put it all on the line to be the first American in space. And he blasted off on Freedom 7 for only a 15-minute flight that would change the course of American history and exploration. One of Alan's first comments during his flight, once he was up there, was, "What a beautiful view." Now, those of us who have been privileged to have that view, it is extraordinary. I can wholeheartedly agree. What a beautiful view. Alan's flight may have been only 15 minutes long, but his impact on NASA, the space program, on America, it is enduring. I remember years ago when I was a young congressman, the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, beckoned me over, said, I want to tell you about when he was a young congressman down at the White House with President Kennedy. And his fellow Bostonian, he said he had never seen him so nervous. He was pacing back and forth like a cat on a hot tin roof. And he said to the aides, "What's wrong with the president?" Well, we were getting ready to launch Alan into space. The Soviets had beat us into space with Yuri Gagarin into one orbit. And we had a rocket that didn't have the throw weight to even get that Mercury capsule up into orbit. It was all on the line, and the president evidenced that, pacing back and forth. And now, 5 decades later, space isn't nearly as much of a mystery. Satellites, GPS systems, the Hubble, Google Earth are things that we all use today because we have more advanced technology and a deep understanding of our world beyond our planet. We've learned a lot since Alan's flight, but the magic of space is that there's always going to be so much more to know and to explore. So to the family, Laura, Julie, Alice, your father was a pioneer when he helped launch our space program. And because of his bravery and his dedication and his paving the way, we have explored the moon that he walked on and made a home on the International Space Station now. And because of his adventurous spirit, we continue to send Americans into space for a better understanding of our universe and what is our place in this vastness of the universe. And so I'm happy that we are honoring Alan's flight today, and I thank you for letting me be a little part of this celebration. And by the way, Alan, I know that you today, you still have that beautiful view.
Humans have gazed at the sky throughout their history, and some of those thoughts were recorded 2,500 years ago in ancient Athens when Greek philosopher Anaxagoras wrote, "The purpose of life is the investigation of the sun, the moon, and the heavens." And I like to think that we have built on that, and 2,500 years from now, we are going to be a whole lot more knowledgeable and capable out there in space. Thank you all for help making that possible. And thanks for sharing this 50th anniversary of the first flight of a U.S. astronaut into space, Alan Shepard.